This is the NBC Television Network.
You can NBC there, be there.
Television, the youngest of the communication arts, is proud of the impact it has had on the world. And the Television Academy Hall of Fame takes this opportunity to recall some of the most memorable moments from its past.
The America's #1 television star, Milton Berle.
Ricky, this is it. This is it.
Hiya, Mary. How about singing some old songs? I think that'd be fun. Good. By the light of the silvery moon.
Tonight's story is Marty by Paddy Chayevsky.
And our little girl Tricia, the 6-year-old, named it Check. We're going to keep it.
Say this. I'm on the front floor and doing the work of the Communist Party.
Good evening. Tonight, See It Now devotes its entire half hour to a report on Senator Joseph R. McCarthy, told mainly in his own words and pictures.
Second half part two. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Close your eyes and out this.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Armstrong is on the moon. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon.
Boys like us, we had it made. Boys like us,
And the final wave, a wave we've seen hundreds of times on the campaign trail.
Once, twice, sold Sir Robert Calvert of Virginia by an animal gentleman.
Welcome to the first annual Television Academy Hall of Fame presentation, honoring those persons who have made a lasting, lifelong contribution to the television. We will be inducting the first 7 honorees into the Hall of Fame. They are Lucille Ball, whose segment will be hosted by Carol Burnett. Milton Berle, hosted by Steve Allen. Paddy Chayevsky, hosted by Bob Fosse. Norman Lear, hosted by Beatrice Arthur. Edward R. Murrow, hosted by Eric Severide. William S. Paley, hosted by James Arness. General David Sarnoff, hosted by Barbara Walters, with special appearances by Eddie Albert, Desi Arnaz Jr., Lucy Arnaz, Peter Falk, and Gene Stapleton. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Barbara Walters.
Good evening. This is the first annual Television Academy Hall of Fame presentation, and 7 giants from our exciting and unpredictable industry will be honored with induction tonight. It's a very selective list, and as the evening progresses, you'll see why they were chosen for this signal honor. The list includes General David Sarnoff, driving force of the RCA Corporation and the National Broadcasting Company, a pioneer in the development of radio and television broadcasting, a legend, a visionary. And equally, from that other network, another legend, another visionary, William S. Paley, founder and guiding force behind the Columbia Broadcasting System for over half a century. Paddy Chayevsky, the brutally honest and touchingly funny writer. He made us all look more deeply at ourselves. Lucille Ball, the embodiment of all things bright and beautiful. And Milton Berle, the embodiment of all things not covered by Lucille Ball. Norman Lear, the creator of a realistic style of comedy that changed the face of television and made us laugh even as we recognized our own foibles. And Edward R. Murrow, the man who brought newscasting and electronic journalism to its highest form. Those are our nominees tonight. And now we begin with our salute to a man who had the vision not only to look into the future, but to become a part of it. It was at the opening of the 1939 World's Fair in New York that General David Sarnoff dedicated the RCA exhibit, and that exhibit signified the beginning of commercial television broadcasting.
And now we add radio sight to sound. It is with a feeling of humbleness that I come to this moment of announcing the birth in this country of a new art so important in its implications that it is bound to affect all society. It is an art which shines like a torch of hope in a troubled world. It is a creative force which we must learn to utilize for the benefit of all mankind.
That was 45 years ago and represented the realization of the first phase of David Sarnoff's plan. This plan had started 16 years earlier when he supplied the funding for the research and development of a far-fetched notion called radio with pictures. For his pioneering work, he's been called, and rightly so, the father of television. And for a medium that has been so maligned over the years, it's nice to know it had a father. Although my body and soul are now with ABC, my formative years were spent at NBC, learning on the job how to do whatever it is I now do. NBC was home. And I can remember hearing about the General. Of course, anyone with that title in front of his name is bound to be awesome. But then I met him. He wasn't a young man, but he had more ideas and more excitement and more zest and more humor than men half his years. David Sarnoff, the eldest of 5 children, was born in 1891 in Russia. When his father immigrated to America alone, his mother promptly packed young David off to an uncle, the rabbi, to learn the Talmud. The father was able to send for the family in 1900, and they reached the promised land with all the hopes and the fears all immigrants had at the time. With his first earnings, he bought a telegraph key and taught himself Morse code. At the age of 17, he became a junior operator for the Marconi Company on Nantucket Island. And then fate, as they say, played its hand. Fascinated with communications, young David Sarnoff was then the operator of the most powerful wireless transmitter in New York. He was all alone at his transmitter on the night of April 14th, 1912, when suddenly a message came through. The unsinkable SS Titanic had run into an iceberg and was sinking fast. The President of the United States ordered all other operators off the air, and for 72 solid hours, it was 21-year-old David Sarnoff who sent the news of the disaster and its survivors to an anxious world. What a beginning for a man whose life would be broadcast communications. 3 years later, David submitted to the Marconi Company a suggestion for a radio music box, the forerunner of the modern radio receiving set. When the Marconi Company was absorbed by the newly found Radio Corporation of America, RCA, Sarnoff was appointed general manager. The year then was 1921. As vice president, president, and finally chairman of the board of RCA, David Sarnoff was directly responsible for many of the pioneering advances in communications that we take so for granted today. He launched the National Broadcasting Company, originated the idea of the combination radio and phonograph into one unit. He negotiated the acquisition of the Victor Company to make phonographs and recordings. He cajoled and charmed and ultimately persuaded many a reluctant star to sign on with the NBC radio network. He began opera broadcasts from the stage of the Metropolitan Opera House.